Now in section L, this is adding multiple terms. This is on page 14 in the packet. So here we have like terms. So we're adding multiple terms together. We did like terms before. Now we have multiple like terms, and we want to simplify it. So here we have 3 pencils, 2 cars, 5 toys, 4 pencils, and 6 toys. Now, the way to simplify this is that you add like terms. So for instance, the pencils in this case are like terms. So you'd add 3 pencils and 4 pencils, and you have 7 pencils. You have 2 cars. There's no other cars, so 2 cars. It's just 2 cars altogether. And there are 5 toys and 6 toys. So really altogether, you have 11 toys. So you see how we simplified the above expression, this one, and we got this one over here by adding the like terms together. Just the concept behind this. So for instance, we have 9 hats, 7 iPhones, 5 cats, negative 7 hats, negative 2 cats, and 4 iPhones. You'd add the like terms together. So if you have 9 hats and you have negative 7 hats, you really have 2 hats. If you have 7 iPhones and you have 4 iPhones, you really have 11 iPhones. If you have 5 cats and you have negative 2 cats, you really have 3 cats altogether. So we see how we simplify the above expression to get the one below it. So now in algebra, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to simplify the expression with the multiple term by adding like terms. Then we're going to place it in standard form. We're going to get to that after. And then we're going to answer the questions A through F. It says there E, but it's really answers A through and then answer A through F. So first we're going to add like terms. So here we have 19x, negative 24x squared, a positive 37, a negative x, a positive 52x squared, negative 49, and a positive 38x6, x to the 6. Like terms have the same variables with the same exponent. So the term, they must have the same variable with the same exponent. Just quickly, this is 19x minus 24x squared, but when we say it separately, when we individualize it, it's said as negative 24x squared. Like terms have the same variables with the same exponents. So we're going to look through all the terms we have right now. We have 19x, we have a negative 24x squared, we have a positive 37, we have a negative 1x. If there's no number in front, again, that means there's a number 1. Every term has a number in front of it. So if there's no number in front, it's a negative 1. Positive 52x squared, a negative 49, and a positive 38x6. So again, like we saw before, we're going to add the terms that are alike. That means the terms that have the same variable with the same exponent. So the best way to do these questions is to work from left to right. So we're going to start from the left. You have 19x. And you have to look what other term has the same variable with the same exponent. That means it has an x to the 1 power. So what other term has an x to the 1 power? You have to look through the other 6 terms there, and that is the negative 1x that also has an x with only 1 with 1 as the exponent. You see this is x squared, this is x squared, this is x to the 6, this is no x. So to be a like term, it has to have the same variable. That means an x right here with the same exponent to the exponent, and they both have an exponent of 1. So we have 19x, we have negative 1x. If you remember in the previous section, the way to add like terms is to add the coefficients together. So we have in the calculator, you could do it in the calculator, you could do 19 plus a negative 1. Those are the coefficients, or you could do 19 minus 1. Either way is fine. You're going to add the coefficients together, and you get 18. Again, the way that works is that if you have 5 tables and 2 tables, you really add in the coefficients, and you get 2, and you get 7, and you have 7 tables. The answer is not 18. The answer is 18x. So 19x plus a negative 1x is 18x, or 19x minus 1x is 18x. Either way you look at it. Then I would cross out both of these terms, and when I cross out the term, I get the sign in front. I cross that out. It just makes it easier to go about this problem. You then move on to the next term. That is the negative 24x squared. And what other term here has the same variable with the same exponent? And that is the positive 52x squared. You therefore add the coefficients together. That is a negative 24 and a positive 52. The coefficients are the number in front of the terms. So you add the coefficients, negative 24 and a positive 52. So negative 24 plus 52, and you get 28. Again, it's not 28. The answer is 28x squared. Negative 24x squared plus 52x squared is a positive. You must write the plus sign here. You can't just write nothing, because then it would say 18x, 28x squared. And I say 18x plus 28x squared. Then cross out both terms, remembering to get the sign in front when you cross it out, just easier to visualize. You then move on to the next term, and you have a positive 37. And what other term is like a 37? Again, 37 is a integer, is a number, so it has to be something that has the same variables with the same exponent, and that is the negative 49. They both have no variables, so therefore they are alike. They're both numbers. You could add numbers. So 37 plus a negative 49. Again, you can do 37 plus negative 49 or 37 minus 49. Either way is fine in the calculator, and you get negative 12. And then you write negative 12 here. You then cross out both terms, and you move on to the last one, was a positive 38x6. And that is how we simplified these terms by adding the like terms together. So here we have it. We have these became this on the bottom here. Now the next step is to place it in standard form. So we have the line next to the question. We're going to place it in standard form. Standard form means the term with the highest exponent is written first. So right now we have four terms. We have 18x, a positive 28x squared, a negative 12, and a positive 38x6. So the term with the highest exponent is written first. You have the 18x, positive 28x squared, negative 12, and a positive 38x6. So the one with the highest exponent is written first, and that is the 38x6. You can cross that out. The next term with the highest exponent is written first, and then you go in decreasing order. So therefore, the 28x second, because that has an exponent of 2, that's written second. And then coming in third would be the 18x, because this has an exponent to the 1 power, so that's third. And the last one would be the number, the negative 12. It has no exponent, it has no variable, so therefore it's written last. The negative 12 is written last. Now that we have it in standard form, we can then answer questions A through F. So first off, number of terms. There are 4 terms altogether: 38x6, a positive 28x second, a positive 18x, and a negative 12. Again, a term is either a single number, a single variable, or numbers and variables multiplied together. That's why there are 4 terms altogether here. The leading coefficient is, once it's in standard form, the leading coefficient is the number in front of the first term, because the coefficient is a number in front of the term. Therefore, the leading coefficient is a number in front of the first term. And therefore, the answer would be 38, because that's the number in front of the first term. The second coefficient is the coefficient of the second term. Again, the coefficient is a number in front of the term. The second term is 28x squared. Therefore, the second coefficient is 28. The third coefficient is the coefficient in front of the third term once it's in standard form. Again, you can only answer A through F once it's in standard form. And then constant is a term that does not have any variables. It's just a number. So therefore, the constant in this case is a negative 12. If there is no number in the expression, that means if there was no number here, the constant would be 0. The degree is the highest exponent. The highest exponent in our case would be a 6, so the degree is 6. That's how you do question 1. Now moving on to question 2, we have 15x4 minus 35x squared plus x7 minus 18x to the third plus 19, and so on. The first step is to add like terms. So we have it over here to add like terms: 15x4 and negative 35x squared, positive 1x to the 7th. Again, if there's no coefficient, the coefficient is 1. Negative 18x squared cubed, positive 19, negative 16x4, positive 11x7, and a negative 27x squared. Again, to add like terms, you start from the left. You always start from the left, and we start with 15x to the 4th. Now, like terms, they have to have the same variable with the same exponent. So what other term has the same variable of an x with the same exponent of 4? So it has to have x to the 4th. And is there a term? There is one right over here, a negative 16x to the 4th. Again, the sign over here is part of this term. This sign is part of this term. The sign in front is part of the next term. So this is a negative 16x4, not 16x to the 4th. It's a negative 16x to the 4. Now the calculator, again, you add the coefficients together. So it's 15 plus a negative 16, or 15 minus 16, and you get negative 1. So it's going to be, when you add them together, you get negative 1x to the 4th, right? It's not negative 1. You're adding the like terms together to get negative 1x to the 4th. We added the like terms, you add the coefficients, and you get negative 1x to the 4th. Now you move on to the next, and then you cross out both those terms. Again, when you cross it out, you cross out the sign in front. It's just easier to visualize. You then move on to the next term, which is a negative 35x squared. Now, what term has the same variable as x with the same exponent of a squared? And that would be the last term there, the negative 27x to the squared. Again, you add the coefficients. You can do it using a calculator if it's easier. And you add the coefficients, negative 35 plus a negative 27, or you can do negative 35 minus 27. Either way is fine. and you get negative 62. It's not negative 62, it's negative 62x to the second, negative 62x squared. You can then cross both those terms out. You then move on to the next term. We have a positive 1x to the seventh. Is any other term that is left have the same variable in x with the same exponent of a 7? There is 11x to the 7. You therefore add those together, and 11 x to the 7 plus 1x to the 7. You add the coefficients. 11 plus 1 is 12. If you have 11 tables and you have one table, you have 12 tables. You can then cross out both those terms, and we're left with negative 18x to the cube. Does any other term have an x with the same variable of a cube? And the answer is no. So just negative 18x to the third. And then we cross that out, and we have a number which is 19, and there's no other numbers in this expression. So you just write 19 at the end, and you cross it out. Now the next step is to place in standard form. Again, standard form is a term with the highest exponent is written first, and then you go in decreasing order. So therefore, in our case, we have 5 terms over here. We have negative 1x to the fourth, a negative 62x squared, a positive 12x to the 7, a negative 18x cubed, and a positive 19. You therefore write the term with the highest exponent is the positive 12x to the 7th. It has an exponent of 7. The second term, you can cross that out with the sign in front. The next term to be written would be the negative 1x to the fourth because it has an exponent of 4. You then cross it out. The next highest exponent is negative 18x cubed because that has an exponent of 3. And the second to last term is the negative 62x squared. And the last term is the positive 19. You see how standard form, the term with the highest exponent is written first, and then it goes in decreasing order. We can now answer questions A through F. Number of terms, there are 12x7, negative 1x to the fourth, negative 18x cubed, negative 62x squared, and a positive 19. There are 5 terms altogether. The leading coefficient is the coefficient of the first term. The coefficient is a number in front, so that would be a 12. The second coefficient would be the number in front of the second term, which is a negative 1. A coefficient means the number in front of the term. Third coefficient would be negative 18, and the constant would be the term without any variables. Would be the constant is the single number, and that is a positive 19. The degree is the highest exponent, which is a 7. That is the answer to question number 2. Now, question 3, I'm going to go a little bit faster. Question 3, we're going to add like terms together, same thing. And we have negative 19y, a positive 43y to the 5th, negative 1y to the 6th, positive 31y, a negative 52y6, a positive 27, a negative 68y to the 5th, and negative 25. Again, you work left to right, so negative 19y. What other term has just a y to the 1 power, and that is the 31y. You add them together, you can use the calculator, so that's you add the coefficients together. Negative 19 plus 31 is 12, and it's going to be 12y. The answer is not 12, it is 12y. You can then cross out both those terms, remembering to get the sign in front. That is part of that term. Positive 43y to the 5th. What other term has the same variable of y with the same exponent up to the 5th? And that would be a negative 68y fifth. You add the coefficients together, 43 plus negative 68, and that is a negative 25. Again, it's going to be negative 25 y to the 5th. You can then cross out both those terms. We now have negative 1y to the 6th, negative 1y to the 6th. What other term has a y to the 6th? And that would be negative 52 y to the 6th. You add the coefficients together, negative 1 plus a negative 52, or you could do negative 1 minus 52. Either way is fine. Again, we're just adding the coefficients, and we get negative 53, and it would be negative 53 y to the 6th when you add it together. Now we have positive 27. What other term is just a number, and that would be the negative 25. 27 minus 25 would be 2. Or 27 plus a negative 25 would also be 2. Either way is fine. Now we're going to place in standard form. Again, the term with the highest exponent is written first. That would be the negative 53y to the 6th. Again, the sign in front is part of this term. So that's negative 53y to the 6th. You can then cross out that term. Then we have a negative 25y to the 5th. You can then cross out that term. Then the next term to go would be the positive 12y because that has an exponent of 1. And the last term written is always the constant, which is a single number because it does not have an exponent. And therefore it'd be a positive 2. Now we can answer questions A through F. We have a number of terms. There are 4 terms altogether. The leading coefficient is a number in front of the first term, which is a negative 53. The second coefficient is a number in front of the second term, which is a negative 25. The third coefficient is a number in front of the third term, which is a positive 12. And the constant is the term without any variables, that is the positive 2. Variables, again, are letters. And the degree is the highest exponent in our case, which is 6. That is, they do questions 1, 2, and 3. And then let's just do quickly question number 11. Question 11 is a little bit different because it includes fractions and decimals numbers, but it's going to be the same exact procedure, same exact, nothing different. And you can use the calculator to do the procedure. You're going to add like terms first. Again, to add like terms, we're going to add the terms that have the same variables with the same exponents. The terms we have are negative 1/4 y to the third, negative 17.1, positive 2y to the second, negative 18y to the 8, negative 2.2, negative 1y to the third, positive 1718 to the 17 y to the eighth, negative 2y to the second, and positive 15y to the fourth. Again, you work left to right, so we have negative 1/4 y to the third. So you look for what term has y to the third, and that is the negative 1y to the third. That also has the same variable with the same exponent. Again, you're going to add the coefficients. So you can use a calculator to do it. The coefficients are a negative 1/4 and a negative 1. So we're going to add them together. So that's negative 1/4 plus a negative 1, or negative 1/4 minus 1. Again, to do fractions, you do negative, then you do alpha, y equals, and enter. You put a 1 on the top and 4 on the bottom. Then you go to the right, you press plus, and then negative 1. You press enter, and you'll get in the calculator, you'll get negative 5/4. You can then click math and scroll down to DEC and press enter, and you get negative 1.25. It's just easier to write it as a decimal, but you could write it as a fraction, negative 5/4, or you can write it as negative 1.25 y to the third. And then cross out both those terms. We then are negative 17.1. That has no variables, so you have to look for which term has also just a number. That is a negative 2.2. Again, you use the calculator to add like terms together. Negative 17.1 plus a negative 2.2, and you get negative 19.3, and you write that down next to the negative 1.25 y to the third. Then move on to the next term, positive 2y to the second, and there's a negative 2y to the second. And positive 2, you add the coefficients together. 2 minus 2 is 0. You don't write 0y to the second, because if I have 0 tables, I don't have any tables, so you don't need to write that. So you just write nothing at all. It's really plus 0, but you don't have to write 0 at all. So you can just cross out those two terms. Then you have negative 18y to the 8 plus 17y to the 8. You can then add the coefficients together. So negative 18 plus 17 is negative 1. So it's negative 1y to the 8th. And then you have a positive 15y to the 4th. Next step is to place it in standard form. So the term with the highest exponent is written first, and that is the negative 1y to the 8th. Second is positive 15y to the 4th. Third is negative 1.25y to the third. And fourth is the constant, negative 19.3. Now we can answer questions A through F once we put it in standard form. The number of terms, there are 4 terms altogether. The leading coefficient is a number in front of the first term, that is a negative 1. The second coefficient is a number in front of the second term, that is a positive 15. Third coefficient is a number in front of the third term, that's a negative 1.25, or a negative 5/4. And the constant is the term without any variables, and that is negative 19.3. The degree is the highest exponent, which is an 8. That is how you do questions section L.